You know what matters most now? Audience, not product. It's audience. I mean, what we deliver, our job is simple: create content that is engaging and relevant to a as big an audience as we can get. Now that could be through our print product at Star Local Media, for example, that's delivered to 175,000 homes every Sunday. It could be through our online product at starlocalmedia.com that in 2022 reached almost 2.9 million users. It could be through our social media platforms, our email newsletters, our podcast, etc. But that we build this massive audience that then we can offer to the local business in a community. That while they may have their own Facebook page and their own email newsletter program, they have a fraction of what we have in total, and then they can use our audience to market their services to hopefully grow their business. So I measure everything in audience. How big is our audience now compared to last year?
Welcome to the News Nirvana podcast. I'm your host, Nick Parker. The News Nirvana podcast features conversations with media professionals from across the country, highlighting our ever-evolving business models and showcasing the strong and effective journalism produced each and every day. This podcast is made possible to you by the generosity of Blocks Digital. Blocks Digital empowers content producers to connect with their worldwide audiences at scale and continuously transform to achieve their business goals. Contact Blocks Digital today to learn more about how they can help you thrive, and you can connect with them at blocksdigital.com. Hello and welcome back to the News Nirvana podcast. I'm your host, Nick Parker, and I don't know, I'm gonna call it a special guest. Maybe a podcast dream come true. I get to have an old friend of mine on as a guest, Rick Rogers. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Nick, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So Rick and I, we'll do full disclosure here. Rick and I have known each other for darn near 30 years now. We've worked together in the past, so we know each other pretty well. We have the same journalism school backgrounds, but Rick has an interesting story right now that I wanted to get you on, so you can talk about. You are, or just passed, I guess, your 1-year anniversary of owning your own newspaper business. You just started this. You bought into and now own Star Local Media in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And look, this has been a new thing for you.
It has been. I guess you could say, it was a dream come true for me. I think, as you said, I've been in the local media space now for, really almost 30 years. In 1994, I was blessed to have my first professional byline published while a college student in a little daily newspaper in Carthage, Missouri. And now, fast forward 29 years later, I'm lucky enough to own and operate 10 weekly publications that serve the booming suburbs of North Dallas. And we deliver local news, information, sports, and marketing to 175,000 homes every Sunday, every week. And along with that, we deliver all of that great information and marketing solutions for our local business partners to about 90,000 users a week on our website at starlocalmedia.com. So, when you said 30 years, Nick, it made me feel pretty old. The gray hair is there. I think my dad always jokes I turned gray early because of all the deadlines I've had in my life, and he's probably right. But no, it's been a great adventure. We're a year into this thing and got a lot of good stories to share.
Yeah, I said 30 years for our friendship, and I didn't realize until you said it that also is probably the professional career started around that same time too, which
Yeah,
I think that part
absolutely.
makes it feel old. Really,
Yes, it
more.
does. Yeah, back then, all we had to do was, put out a newspaper once a day, right?
Right.
There wasn't no website, no podcast, no social media, no email newsletters. You really had one focus, and that was the daily or for some, a weekly print publication. But it also took a heck of a lot of time to do that one thing back then. And
Right.
now, with a smartphone and with Zoom or a video conferencing call, we can do all kinds of things very quickly and get information out to our readers and our communities within seconds. So been a pretty cool evolution.
Yeah, you can now go cover a story, and with the click of a few buttons, you filed your written story, you filed an audio clip, a video clip. Things do move a lot faster.
Absolutely,
I
they
think
do.
that's you, Rick. Since I've known you, you were kind of born to do community journalism. You've done this thing. It's been a passion of yours for a long time. What was different now that you've got 10 papers and they're all yours?
Well, the difference is I pay a lot more attention to the cash flow than I did when I didn't own the media titles, right? Um, So I'll tell a little story. So last week, I actually got to speak to a group of students at a local university in Frisco, Texas. And these are students mainly looking to go into the marketing side of the business, but they're going through the journalism program at the University of North Texas. It's all kind of part of the same program. And one of the things I always tell students who are going into this profession is it is a business. And I think, at times, especially when you are going through, journalism schools, there are times where maybe you forget or aren't really don't recognize the fact that it is a business. And and that's more true now for me than ever. Is I've been blessed to work for a lot of great organizations and companies. I've worked for private media owners. I've worked for big public media, publicly owned publicly traded companies. I've worked in the tech space, but there's something unique and special about when it's yours and you get to craft the direction of where you want the company to go. But at the end of the day, too, you have to make sure to hit your targets on a sales and revenue side to, make sure the business is stable and able to grow.
Well, let's start actually there with kind of the basic thing that you just said about vision. So when you think of community news, when you think of covering a community, what is your vision for what that news organization should be?
Present in the community. I think if there's one thing I've learned this year and taking some lessons learned over my career is if members of the community, and I'm not just talking city leadership, chamber of commerce directors, but if business owners in the community see you as an owner or as a publisher involved in the community, going to events, willing to invest your time and effort to helping the community grow and evolve, therein lies the partnership where they're willing to invest, their hard-earned dollars to market in your product, knowing that you care enough to invest in delivering a good product to the community. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I've tried to instill in my team here is that it is important for us to go to the, city celebration of the 121st year of the city and be seen there and shake hands with, the local insurance agent who's there. And when they see that, when they see that you care, it's a lot easier to get that meeting with them the next week to talk about how you might be able to help grow their business. When you kind of hide when you're maybe not present in the community and you're expecting dollars to just come to you, those days are gone. Those days have been gone for 15 years, but they're gone more now than ever. So I think the biggest thing I can, for anybody looking to do this or anybody who's just now getting into that kind of publisher or leadership role is don't forget to get involved in the community you serve. Because I guarantee you the business owners will notice that and they'll be more willing to talk to you about how you can help them grow their business than if you just sit back in the background.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a return to the old school model of joining those clubs and just being out there with those things, and those pay off. It's as you talk about with whether it's a sales relationship, a a reporter's relationship with the people on his beat or whatever. Just you've got to have that relationship and nurture those each and every time, each every
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. I mean, it's a mix. I mean, you have to be involved and dedicate some time to community involvement, but then you also need to spend your time wisely too, and make sure that you're using the data that you have at your disposal, through all the great technology that we have, to identify who the right prospects are to market in your products as well. We talk a lot about that on the sales side. Is are we going after the right opportunities in our communities, to help market their solutions, their products in our newspapers and or our websites.
So what data are you looking at? I mean, if you take what you just said about your vision about being present and being involved, and it all starts with nurturing those relationships. What then are you looking at to say this is the right target for, and we'll stick right now to the sales
Sure.
side of things, but this is the right target for us and who we want to go talk to so that we can be their marketing partner.
So if I were to set up a meeting with a coffee shop in downtown Frisco, right, and I walk into that coffee shop and I see everybody that's basically 35 and under. If I walked in, they're asking them, "Would you like to advertise into the newspaper?" Would that be a smart decision? Would that be a smart first step? No, no. I mean, you have to identify what kind of advertising sectors fit in with the right products that we have. And what's incredible is 30 years ago, going back to what I said earlier, all we had was the newspaper as a delivery method for the most part, right? But now, when I go talk to the local coffee shop, the newspaper probably is not even going to be a part of my conversation with them. It's going to be targeted digital, identifying, you know, people who are 20 to 35 within a certain income range that, has that disposable income to buy a $6 cup of coffee. Okay. It's going to be identifying maybe people in the community next door to come to that community, come to their shop 5 or 10 miles away that may not be coming there or may not know about their shop right now. Targeted email campaigns, a podcast sponsorship, podcast about their business, a sponsored post about, here are 5 new coffee blends coming in 2023. Everything digital, targeted social. The newspaper is not even a part of that conversation. Now flip it, okay, real quick. Let's say I have a meeting with a active 55 and over community that wants to grow. They're leasing a new building that they just got, right? Now for that, the newspaper is probably my lead in, right? Because that our newspaper readership tends to be that 50 and 50 plus readership. So I'd probably lead in with the newspaper with some nice anchored positions, but then also include, and this isn't an add-on, it's just a package, targeted digital, targeted email, etc. So it's, identifying which sectors of the advertising base fit in with the right product, having those needs analysis conversations with the customer on who they want to reach, and then ultimately deliver a return on their investment by putting them with the right product to reach the right audience to deliver the return on investment they're looking for.
What is the as we build our teams in our news organizations, what's the learning curve life like for getting your crew ready to sell that way, because it's not how we used to sell.
No.
And we now have, like you just alluded to, we now have about 12 different products, really, if we could break it down, that we could push. And then so learning to package which ones together based on who you're talking to, know your audience, is always a great lesson. But so what's the learning curve on getting your teams ready for that?
I think I think if you asked 100 different sales leaders this question, I think you might get quite a few different answers. Right? We've tried so many different things. We've tried the digital only sales approach, where you hire a separate team that operates separate from the print team. We've tried the okay, you sell everything approach, where there's no boundaries and every rep sells everything. I don't know if either one really works the best. Um, for me, it comes down to simply it's more about the sales process and less about what you're selling. And the sales process comes down to getting the meeting with the prospect and asking them questions about their business. You know, how do they want to grow in 2023? What customers are they not seeing in their store that they want to see now? Do they want to go into a new market that they're not in? Once you ask those questions and get answers, then you can develop a marketing plan that's specific for that business that can deliver a return on their marketing investment. So it's really not about, you know, this person sells print, this person sells digital, this person's our email specialist. It's about as simple as getting the meeting with the prospect, doing your homework, having a plan when you go in, but then really it's asking questions about their business. And hopefully through that, you'll be able to develop a marketing strategy because, especially for small businesses, they're doing so many things. All right. They're getting hit up by so many different marketing proposals throughout. I mean, there's agencies everywhere that says they can grow their business, right?
Yeah. How many of those emails do you get a day? Dear,
Oh, I
dear
mean, a
Star Local
gazillion.
Media.
Exactly. But you know what we have more than anything is we have, if done right, hopefully the product, whether it's mine or anybody else's, is a trusted brand in the marketplace, right? A brand that in many cases has been around for decades, if not more than a century. Could be sometimes a hindrance to us too. But they trust us, they know us. And that trust is huge to get us in the door. Now, once we get in the door, we need to do our job to develop a plan that delivers results. And when we
Well, it
do
sounds like
that, we have a customer.
really, it's all coming back to what you started with, which was cultivating the relationship.
Bingo.
You've got to have in, and what's the old sales cliche? They got to know you, they got to like you, they got to trust you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing. I mean, yes, we could do tomorrow. We could launch. Okay, we're going to sell 25 targeted email campaigns. Go do it. I want 25 sold by the end of the month. But is that the right thing to do? I mean, are we just selling that because we think we need to sell more email? Or should it be go out and get 25 meetings in March? And out of those 25 meetings, develop 25 tailored proposals to those businesses that will get them results.
Well,
And
and
it could be email, digital, social, print, podcast. But that ultimately will keep that customer a customer for more than just one time, but hopefully for a long time.
I think that leads to an interesting question to me because we've spent so much of our careers focused on product, focused on developing. What's the best way to tell a story, to do whatever, right? Like we want to do this awesome thing. We get into the cool technologies, and we're like, hey, we can do these email campaigns now, and look who we can hit, and how we can track it, and what we can do. But it's almost like you're saying that's secondary.
You know what matters most now? Audience, not product. It's audience. I mean, what we deliver, our job is simple: create content that is engaging and relevant to a as big an audience as we can get. Now, that could be through our print product at Star Local Media, for example, that's delivered to 175,000 homes every Sunday. It could be through our online product at starlocalmedia.com that in 2022 reached almost 2.9 million users. It could be through our social media platforms, our email newsletters, our podcast, etc. But that we build this massive audience that then we can offer to the local business in a community. That while they may have their own Facebook page and their own email newsletter program, they have a fraction of what we have in total, and then they can use our audience to market their services to hopefully grow their business. So I measure everything in audience. How big is our audience now compared to last year? Every Monday, we had it 2 hours ago. Okay. We talk about, okay, what was our audience growth week over week, year over year? So no, we don't have products. We create an audience.
All right. Well, this is the big question then. It's been a year, Rick. How's your audience grown?
Quite a bit, actually. So our online growth was 63% year over year at starlocalmedia.com. So we were very pleased with that. And even so far in 2023, we have double digit percentage growth in terms of our audience, both in users and page views. I mean, users to me is the big number, right? So, we did just under
How are you
2
defining that?
through Google Analytics, just how many users hit our site. So we track it by city. I mean, obviously covering 10 different communities, we kind of track which communities are trending up. Our goal is to hopefully do about 3.2 million users in 23. Now, when you think about it, and this is again just completely anecdotal, but um, you know, DFW has just around 8 million people in the metro area. So if we were to do over 3 million, I mean, that's a number. That's a
That's a
number.
good chunk.
It's a good chunk. Now, obviously, not all of that comes from the Dallas area, but this kind of helps you visualize how big that audience is. Um, and we operate as a daily news organization. So we update our website every day. In many cases, all day throughout the day. Our weekly products serve as kind of a weekly wrap up / look ahead. But our goal is to hopefully have you come to our website every day, hopefully once or twice a day, to see what's going on in your community.
What are some of the things you've been doing to get that growth? What are some tools, I guess, or programs that have worked?
Well, if you're not using it, and if you are at Town News, or I'm sorry, Blocks Digital, dang it, I did it. I was hoping I wouldn't.
Look,
Sorry to my friends at
the,
Blocks
the,
Digital.
the overlords will not fine you for this.
Oh, it's so hard. But hey, congrats on the rebrand. Great job. If you are a Blocks Digital customer, and if you're not using their email newsletter program, I would highly encourage you to jump on board. That definitely drives some audience for us. We just kind of reorganized and redesigned our newsletters through Blocks Digital, and actually have seen quite a bit of an increase in engagement through that. So if you're not using it, you have to do it, and take advantage of some of the new design tools that they have.
I've been really interested in the turnaround for newsletter campaigns. I feel like around 2008, 2010 when the Great Recession was happening, every company, right, we switched to email newsletters and email campaigns because we didn't want to spend the money on the print anymore, right? And then that kind of died way down, but I feel like we're coming back to it, and it's more effective than it ever has been. Is that
Oh,
is that
yeah.
because we can track data better? We can use it better? Is that it just finally became a part of our culture? I wonder what leads to that.
Well, especially when it comes to like our newsletter program, I mean, you're signing up to receive it, right? So, I mean, if you take the time to sign up to receive one of our newsletters, the hope is that you want to make sure and read it every day. What I also love about it too is we can look and see exactly where they're clicking on the newsletter. So we'll notice that, okay, our business stories, kind of our development, here's what's coming stories tend to get a lot of traction on our newsletters. And, some of the more featurey type of content does not. So, we'll focus more on our business content on our newsletters if we can. I mean,
I've
that's me.
noticed that as well, that while a good feature type thing might get good play, it's with a much smaller group.
Oh,
But something
yeah.
like the the sports soccer village development that's happening, a mile away, or, the new, nobody's building an office right now, but, whatever the new
Oh, here they
development
are.
is.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I guess where you are, yeah.
they're new. Oh, everywhere. Yeah.
Um,
The
but yeah,
official
but like
bird
whatever
of,
that new
of
development is,
yeah.
people wanna know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the joke is the official bird of North Texas is the crane because we have cranes in the air everywhere. I had some.
That's funny. I said, "Nobody's building an office," and you're like, I'm in
Yeah.
Dallas." The News Nirvana podcast is made possible by the generosity of Blocks Digital. Blocks Digital empowers content producers to connect with their worldwide audiences at scale and continuously transform to achieve their business goals. Contact Blocks Digital today to learn more about how they can help you thrive. Connect with them at blocksdigital.com.
Another thing to think about too is taking advantage of social media. And I'm not just talking about using a tool to post your content on your own social media networks, but actually engaging with social media groups. While this may seem a scary endeavor for some, but there are a
Always.
lot of big community groups out there that if you're allowed to post your content to, drives significant traffic. So we have one or two in each community that we serve that many times we'll post stories to, and that drives additional traffic and, more importantly, awareness, being brand awareness of what we're doing. Which in our markets where there's a lot of new residents coming, that's very important for us.
Well, I think that's the key to social media, right? Is the branding aspect of it.
Oh, absolutely,
I mean, if
and
you
just
can engage and interact well, then you become a piece of that, whatever that, community is.
absolutely. No, it's a huge traffic driver for us as well.
Because I think sometimes it's hard to find the direct link to traffic, but that brand awareness is there.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing direct links?
Uh, yeah. I mean, our direct traffic our highest traffic drivers are through search and social, and I think that's pretty normal, industry standard. But we do have, we have seen a growth in direct traffic to our site, but a lot of it comes from search and social.
Now, I know I'm gonna ask you about this program just because it's near and dear to my heart. You started doing some podcasting,
We have.
with your papers. What's that I'm gonna ask first, what's that process been like to add it to your content, or to add that content to your toolbox?
Yeah, the challenge with podcasting is simple. It's time, right? It's developing a rhythm. Um, you have to decide, is it going to be something that you do daily, weekly, monthly, when the time is right? And then more importantly, sponsorship. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
my saying in business is pretty simple: is the juice worth the squeeze, right? And while there are some branding benefits to doing one, and obviously there's benefits from a content awareness and discovery standpoint. At the end of the day, anything that we do hopefully needs to deliver a return on time investment for us at Star Local Media. But yes, I mean we've launched a handful of podcast shows. We've had a sports podcast for a while. It's kind of been hit and miss, come and go a little bit with it, but it's something that I think we can definitely grow in 2023. And we've actually identified a partner that's going to help us hopefully do that. Um, that creates weekly podcast out of our products. So they're able to take kind of what we do online and in print and create almost kind of a New York Times daily treatment to it. Actually, just got the rough draft of the first episode today, and it was pretty cool. So more to come on that, and be looking out on our socials as we launch those hopefully in Q2 of this year.
What's the audience reaction been? Have you been able to build audience? Are people tuning into those kind of things, or do you think you're kind of maybe still finding what your niche is gonna be there?
Yeah, I think we're probably still finding it. I think it's all about the topic. I'd have to say, I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I have to say, don't just launch a podcast show, a unique show, and just open the mics and start talking necessarily. I think you need to have kind of uh, a focus to it. For the one that we do for Frisco, we'll probably do two or three a month, and it tends to be topical on major kind of issues in the community, and or topics or people that are making a difference or having an effect in the community as well. Um, so we're going to do one actually here in the next week or so about Universal Parks and Resorts, which is considering opening a kid-friendly theme park in Frisco and Texas, and some people are excited and some people are not. And so we'll probably do a little episode about that. And it's all about growing audience. I mean, I'm it's that same word I've talked about, but if we can create an engaged audience through podcast and then in turn offer that audience to someone who wants to sponsor our podcast networks, um, that's how this should work, right? It's about as simple as that. We create an audience, they advertise to our audience, they grow their business, we grow our network, and everybody benefits.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're onto whatever that content that you already know is going to gather audience attention. I mean, by talking about Universal wanted to do a theme park, that's development. People want to know what's going to be built. What's that thing that's going to happen next door to me or in my backyard? And I will say this from my experience too, Rick. Local elections, people love them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know this. I have a local news podcast where I am in Missouri, outside of Kansas City. We just had our 600th episode. We've been doing it for 600 years, and I looked at the top 10 list. They were all election related. Over 600
No,
episodes, and
and
I think
that's
that's what
that's
people
great.
want to
Yeah.
know.
That's great, and people should wanna know, right? I mean, local elections actually affect our daily lives more than anything that happens at the state capitol or in DC. So, uh, especially when it comes to what we do, in terms of all the 10 markets that we serve, and then obviously the market that you serve, I mean, that's the content that people should be hopefully, caring about, right? On, who's gonna be on their school board, who's going to be in their city council. That's what we do. We just try to hopefully deliver it in a way that's very engaging, besides just three paragraphs and a quote. That's our
Right.
that's our job.
Well, look, if you can get past that, you're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some other things that you're doing? I know you just ran some contests. You're trying to just think outside the box a little bit to get involvement, from people and engagement.
Yeah, I mean, for those who aren't familiar with Star Local Media, I mean, these brands have been around for decades, if not even for some over a century. From a revenue standpoint, the company was more reliant on the national advertising buy, this past 10 years plus. Because of our controlled distribution, we have the largest weekly footprint in all of DFW. Yes, even larger than the Dallas Morning News. So for a long time, that was very attractive to the Targets, the Macy's, the Kohl's, et cetera, to deliver their preprints. While we
That
still
aren't
have
the
some of
buyers they
that.
used to be.
No, I mean, we still have some of that revenue today, and we're, very, very happy to have it. But we've really had to pivot this past year to being much more local focused in terms of our revenue efforts. And, proud to say that in 2022, our local revenue was 98% above 2021. And we're looking.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, and that's putting more feet on the street. That's really focusing our products to be as local as possible, from not only a content standpoint, which they've always been, but really just again from an advertising standpoint. Um, Part of that has been putting together programs like our, Reader's Choice, which Star Local Media has run for years, but we did it a little bit differently this year, with a digital partner, and saw really great growth over that. Doing some really unique niche special editions, not really special sections. I'm not talking about the spring cleanup section or things that we've done for years, but these are really really locally focused special editions on something big coming to the community that people want to advertise and brand themselves in. And we did three or four of those and had really great success from a revenue standpoint and also a community engagement standpoint, which, has huge benefits as well. But I got to tell you, I mean, it's just getting back to focusing on, local revenue opportunities and getting out in front of every medium to small business owner in our markets, and talking about how we can help them grow.
Let's shift gears a little bit, and let's do the flip side of this, and let's do the editorial side, the content
Mhm.
side of that. Are you following a similar path for finding your audience engagement? Because as we know now, audience is revenue. I mean,
Yep.
that's all you've talked about this whole time, right? Is we have to have that audience. So the content is as important, if not more important than ever. Are you working with on the editorial side with a similar approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try to. I mean, we don't have. There's no national content network besides what we may use from the Blocks Digital Content Exchange. But in our print products, it's 100% local. And I would say 90% of the time, it's 100% local to that particular market. There's some content, some stories that may appear in multiple markets because it makes sense. But what we tend to ask in our news meetings is, why do we care? Why should we be covering the Parks and Sewer Board meetings? Does anybody really care? I mean, what is truly, why should someone living in Plano, Texas care about what's happening with this topic? And we need to, kind of expose the reasons why. And it could be something, well, the universal story in Frisco is a great example. Okay. There's the traffic angle, the quality of life angle, the business opportunity angle. We covered all of those in our reporting this past Sunday. When it comes down to it, and we ask this question all the time, is does anybody care? And if so, why? And we have to deliver the why. Why should they care that this is coming to Plano, Texas, or Frisco, Texas?
Uh, Do the
And
do you
yeah,
think the answers to those questions are different than what you expected or would have thought 10 years ago?
very well. I will tell you, the biggest change in doing this. I mean, for those who don't know, my 6 years outside of the kind of daily operation of a media company. I mean, social media is a big changer. I mean, we can find out what people are thinking a lot now by just doing a simple search online, right?
Right.
So it's a little easier to get a pulse of what the community is thinking about a specific topic. Now, that being said, you have to kind of go in there looking for hopefully both sides, right? I mean, it can get pretty skewed pretty quickly. But I think that the biggest change is just that. I mean, it's that you can get feedback nearly immediately when you post a story, good or bad.
Right.
Um, and there are times when, people may not like something that we're reporting on. I mean, there are times I think when, our mission statement at Star Local Media is to be a true reflection of the community that we serve. And, we cover everything from, a rash of car thefts in the community that, why should people care about that? Well, because they may want to know that the neighborhood that they live in has had 5 cars broken into in the last week. They may want to make sure that they lock their cars, right? Now, sometimes I think some folks don't like, that are obviously in city tourism may not like the fact that we run, crime roundups every week. Okay.
Right.
But we do that for a reason. We also, run here's what's coming, in terms of development stories. We do sports, mostly high school sports. We do a lot of education coverage for our school districts. We try to cover everything from people making a difference at a nonprofit to a rash of car thefts and kind of everything in between.
Do that when you're looking at data and you have your Monday audience meetings, uh,
Yep,
are you looking at those stories too and seeing what is driving things? Does the editorial side play as big a role?
absolutely. I mean, we have TVs up here in our office that show our traffic at real time. So we're looking all the time on what stories are trending, what stories are not trending,
How
what can
important is
we.
that to you now? Because those are things not everybody's doing it yet,
Yeah.
and it definitely wasn't heard of, 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's. Um, let's say that a story performed really well over the weekend, but now maybe because a lot of folks don't check, news sites necessarily on a Saturday. Now is the time to recirculate that content on Monday. Do a in case you missed it post, right? In case you missed it, here's a story of the Frisco High School graduate Nick Bolton who scored a touchdown for the Chiefs, right? We'll repost that maybe tonight to get
Plus
some extra
25
traffic.
points for mentioning the Chiefs.
Exactly. Thank you. But though, no, you should absolutely use that data and be able to identify what content is resonating with an audience. I mean, if you're a journalist, your goal is to hopefully have people read your content. Now, I'm not talking about going to chase clicks. We're not doing that. We don't do that. But, we should hopefully be monitoring what types of stories are driving the most engagement on the site. And really what I've noticed is stories that involve, you know, whenever we drive around town, wherever you live, if you drive by and you see a bunch of dirt being moved and something being built, the first question you probably ask yourself is, "Huh, I wonder what's going there." Our
Right,
job,
exactly.
our job should be to answer that question. If we're doing our job right, the next time they, go online to our site or pick up the newspaper on Sunday, that answer should hopefully be in the product that they're reading, right? And then they're like, "Oh, cool. I didn't know that the restaurant was going there in that spot." Now
Well,
we
I think
become important to their daily life.
exactly. I think your distinction there between reflection of the community and chasing clicks is the key, right? Because you want to answer those questions that you and your audience are going to have. You're not chasing their voyeurism as much, with clicks, but you are wanting to get into those conversations that they're having and find those stories, whether it's being able to answer the question of what's the thing being built in my backyard, or everybody's talking about this, what's the real story,
And I
what
mean, to
should
be
we be
clear
talking
too,
about?
I mean, you only have so much time and resources. Hey, we're a small but mighty team here. We have 17 full-time employees throughout the entire organization, 6 on the content side. We have 5 on the sales and marketing side, and then business separate, some business function staff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're not the Dallas Morning News. I mean, and nor do we expect to be. Um, we're not going to get to every fire call and every big kind of breaking news happening. But when it does happen, we're good at sourcing it and hopefully reporting it in a way that's accurate, but maybe also a little bit different than just what the daily paper may be doing.
Well, as we wrap things up, because I know that we could go for another couple hours if the overlords would let us. But as we're wrapping up, so you've got a year anniversary. You've done this for a year.
1 year.
What excites you about year two? When you look at the future, the next year of what Star Local Media can be, what are you most excited about?
This is an easy answer: digital marketing growth. Um, this first year is all about kind of rebuilding the foundation of the business, making those reconnections with our local business partners in every community, turning local revenue into a 90% year over year increase. And quite a bit of that was on the print side. Year two, the focus with my team is simple: to have explosive digital marketing growth, to really, out of those needs analysis, out of those sit downs with local businesses, hopefully we're offering them the full suite of what we can do for them. O&O digital, targeted social, targeted email, podcast opportunities, content marketing, which I will say, I think content marketing is probably the lowest hanging fruit for any local business organization, whether you're in, Washington State to North Carolina. I think brands want to tell their story in a way that doesn't feel like a square ad. Okay,
Right.
so I think content marketing, kind of what we're doing here in a way, is content marketing is a huge opportunity. So we grew 98% year over year in local. I want to have, triple digit year over year growth on the digital side. And if we do that, I think we're going into 2024 even stronger than we are today.
I like to what's cool about this show is we get to talk about the business side, the advertising, the editorial side
Sure.
too. So I'm gonna go to that side too. You have a favorite story you've told in the last year? Or and by you, the royal you, your papers
Yeah. A favorite story that we've told in all the newspapers
in the last year. Do you have one
in
that
the
stands out?
in the last year. Boy,
I know it's a
um,
little bit mean and
that's like
open.
asking like which one is my favorite child of the 10 that I
Look, I
have
know the
all
answer to
still.
that. I won't get you in trouble, but I know the answer to that question.
You do?
Your favorite child.
Well, yeah, yeah, no, yeah, that's true. Um, you know, here's my favorite story. Here's my favorite story, and it's not a story, okay? But, we found out a few weeks ago actually that one of our reporters, Audrey Henvey, was named to the top 25 under 35 for editor and publisher across the country. And to have her included in that group in our first year, was just, I mean, you should have seen her face when I told her that she was selected. And she is the perfect person for this job. She cares about the communities that she works in. She's willing to get involved. She's willing to not just make the calls, but actually go and, go out in the community and cover it. I've been with her out in the community at several events and activities, and everyone knows her. That's what a good community journalist does. And so I guess I don't have a favorite story. I'm having a favorite result out of 2022. And that is to see someone like Audrey, who really is the future of what we do, be recognized for the work that she's put in. And, the whole team is that way. I mean, they all bought into the new vision for what we're trying to do here. Um, but it's been a big change. We're not even close to where I want the company to be. But, I'm proud of what's been accomplished in 2022 and even more excited, I think, to see what this group can do in 2023 and beyond. And um, so, yeah, yeah, things, things are going great. And I made this jump knowing what I was getting into. I think you never know exactly what you're going to get into. Um, but, it's been a lot of fun to get back to, I guess, my roots in terms of, you never know what a day will bring. Some days are visiting with potential clients or current clients on the marketing side. Some days it's talking to city officials about a big project coming and being involved in that from a community standpoint. Some days I'm out taking photos at a basketball or a football game, and it's all part of a life of a local media uh, person, right? And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, congratulations to you and to Audrey. That's a great story, and I think we try on this show, I think, to let people celebrate those things because, and you and Rick, you and I have had this conversation before, but as an industry, we're horrible about bragging about ourselves.
Oh,
We do
terrible.
not tell those stories that you just told often enough,
Yeah,
and
no,
so
yeah,
congratulations on that,
thank
and
you,
good
thank you.
job giving her the attention she needs and deserves.
She's a rock star, and I know I shouldn't use that after the Super Bowl commercial, but she really is a rock star. So
I don't.
Paul Stanley can come yell at me later
Well,
for
that's what I was
those
gonna
who
ask. Is your door opening? Is Paul Stanley walking in?
yeah, he's right there. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Well, Rick, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm going to say this because I know you. One of the things I really like about you is you haven't been a reporter for a very long time. You've been a publisher, you've been on the corporate side, you're an owner, uh, but people will still see you at a high school sporting event taking pictures or whatever because you like the business no matter what part of it is, and I think
Yeah,
that's cool.
thank you. Now I'm actually going to take photos at a playoff basketball game tonight, Nick. So hey, if you guys are going to be at Frisco High School, I'll be there at 6:45.
I personally am, and we're recording this on a Monday. I'm personally going to go rest because I'm still a little bit on my Super Bowl high here in the Kansas City area.
I bet. I bet.
Well, Rick, I appreciate you taking the time and telling us a little bit of the story. I want one more question from you. If people want to follow Star Local Media, if they want to see what's going on, or maybe just pick your brain sometime, as we started to do here, how can they follow you? How can they find you?
Yeah, just simply go to starlocalmedia.com is our website. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Just search for Rick Rogers, Star Local Media, and I should pop up. Hopefully, the picture looks a little bit like what you might see here on the video broadcast, at least. I don't know, maybe. And then email me, please. Email me at rrogers@starlocalmedia.com. I've been blessed through the years to have a lot of friends and mentors in this industry. A lot of people who have guided me and still guide me today. I have people check in on me occasionally, Nick, and ask, they just want to make sure I haven't jumped out of the window or anything since doing this.
It's a fair question.
It truly is. I think some people probably, when they learned what I was doing, thought I was crazy. I know some people did. They told me as such, but no, I say all that to be, hey, I'd love to share anything that might be working here, but more importantly, talk to anybody about what might be working in their market. And we're all in this fight together to keep local media relevant and essential to the daily lives of our communities. And love to talk with anybody. So hit me up.
But I didn't get to get to this topic on this episode because we were running out of time. But one of the reasons I hope people call you, and I hope the story that you can tell too, is about the embracing the entrepreneurial side of it, and the business side, because I think we weren't trained, especially those of us that came up on the editorial side. We were not trained to be business people. We weren't trained on how to run the business or to take those leaps, and it's going to take people that know all of the sides of the business, and it's going to take people willing to be a little crazy and go and take a risk and buy up a few papers in the middle of DFW or wherever, right? It's going to take more of that, and I think if more of us could embrace that entrepreneurial side of things, our business is just going to get better.
And I will say, this is still a great business. I think, hopefully everybody who listens to this, obviously you love news or you're involved in the news business. So I would hope you feel the same way. But this is still an incredible business and can still be a very profitable business. But it's just, it's very different than what it was 30 years ago, Nick, when we started. And embrace that change, embrace those opportunities. You're going to have days, and I have them all the time, when I think, what did I do? But then I have those days quickly afterwards when I'm like, hey, this is why I did what I did. And it's those days that I try to make sure and remember more than the other days, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wrap us up for this episode. We'll talk to everybody next time. The News Nirvana podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or most any of your favorite podcast apps. The News Nirvana podcast is made possible by the generosity of Blocks Digital. Connect with them at blocksdigital.com. The News Nirvana podcast is produced by Fredcasts. Think, speak, act,